Hi everyone, this is Cat Day with Sneaky Pete Mafia, and we have a special guest for you tonight. We have Mark White, who is a commentator for CSI and Garrett. Take it away.
Hi, Mark. How you doing this evening?
Yeah, it's morning for me. I'm here in Bangkok. Good, huh?
So, what I brought you on the show here for is to get a little bit of feel for what you do and who you are and what you do in the billiards industry. Because I've seen you all over the place, from tour to tour to tour to really big events and stuff like that. And I wanted to see kind of how it is that you do what you do.
From 7 years old, I had a dream. I wanted to be a snooker player. I was never quite good enough. I was sort of on the edge, but never quite good enough. So I turned to coaching around the age of 19, 20, and then found myself commentating on snooker matches. And my friends used to say, wow, you know exactly what they're going to do. You're calling the shots before they play them. How do you do it? And I said, I don't know. I just love it so much. I just love it, you know. And then as I got older, snooker become more boring. There was no music. Everyone was can't make any noise, no alcohol. So I thought, I'm going to go and have some fun with this. So the natural progression for a failed snooker player is to turn to a smaller table where you can go and have a drink and not really care if you play well or not. Just have some fun, basically. So
Right.
I got into that way. And I was actually where I am now. I was in Bangkok, and there was the Chinese 8 ball was going on in a shopping mall here, and there was a Filipino company that was streaming it. Roland Garcia was here, amongst some others from the Philippines, and they said, look, we want an English guy. Do you think you can commentate? And I'd never done it before, didn't really know the game of Chinese 8 ball, but I thought, well, can't be that difficult. So I said, yeah, I do it. And I'd done it. COVID happened. I had to leave Thailand, went back to Europe. Same Filipino company wanted me to start doing some remote commentating. Then my big break came. A local, not local, but a European company come to me and said, look, we're running all these high profile remote games during COVID. Do you fancy doing some commentating? So I said, yeah, sure. So I actually got my first payment for commentating from an Italian company called Sharpshooter.
Nice.
And then I was heard by a guy called Chad Shoulders, who runs Havoc Productions. I don't know if you know him. He's got Roberto Gomez, Danny Olson, him. So he was doing and it was just after the Billy Thorpe incident where he got dropped by Q-Tech for the little altercation, let's call it. And it was Sky Woodward, Chris Robinson, as he was then, Chris Reinhold now, of course, Billy Thorpe and Danny Olson. And they were playing some, ring games and stuff like that. So they asked me to commentate on it. And then from there, it just snowballed and people seemed to like my style of commentary. And I've been asked to commentate on lots of high profile things since then.
That's incredible. Now, you just left the United States here, where they did the big Predator event and the CSI and BCA tournaments there. How did you like that style of play and that long of a match, that duration of really getting out there and being involved in it for that long of a time?
Yeah, I mean, I came out in January. I got a call from Ozzy Reynolds saying, look, Jeremy Jones has got COVID, and this was literally 3 days before the Arizona event. He said, do you think you could get out here and help me out? So I said, book me a flight and I'll go and get my COVID test and I'll be on the next plane. And I arrived the day before. I got to head up the commentary there with George Teashaya, who obviously comes from the Arizona region, and just went from strength to strength. And I went on to Wisconsin. Quite a temperature change, actually. Wisconsin from Arizona.
I live in Wisconsin. I live in central Wisconsin, so it's a big change.
Yeah, huge. There was snow on
And
the
and
ground,
the
but I
funny
felt
thing
at
is
home,
about
right?
that is I came from Arizona to Wisconsin, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, it's incredible the difference. But honestly, for me, I think that the pool scene in both places is just as competitive. The difference that I see it is in Arizona, there's a lot more big tables out there, more a lot 10 footers and stuff like that, and people are more competitive, but just in a different fashion. Whereas here in Wisconsin, everything is a bar box everywhere. You have to travel a significant distance to go and find 9-foot tables. So for me, it's about trying to find the mix between the two, and there really isn't any in here. So if you want to find bigger tables, you got to go to the specific venues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that event?
The Arizona one?
No, the one in Vegas that just happened.
Oh, this one. Well, it was absolutely massive. My first time in the US was actually at this event, the Expo, last September, but it was moved this time to March, wasn't it? I forget where I am. Yeah, March. So we had so much going on. We had the Las Vegas Open. We had the women's Alpha Las Vegas Open. We had the Carom 3-cushion UMB World Cup for the first time. We had the USA Pool League National Championships, the BCA World Championships. I think at one point there was something like 6,000 Q sports people under the Rio roof, and it was
wow.
I've just never seen anything like it. It was just incredible, and to be a part of it, and I was a part of it right from the start. I mean, I was the first man in and the last man out.
Yeah, I saw that in your commentating. So other than the massive scale of it, how is it transferring from one event to the next?
It was a little bit bizarre, actually, because at one stage we had 3 competitions going on at the same time. We had 14 tables in total. We had the main arena table, and we had 7 one side, 6 the other side. So we had the women's event going on, the 7 tables, the end of the men's. This was when it cut. Sorry, and with the World 10 Ball. What am I forgetting? Why am I forgetting the World 10 Ball as well? Of course, that was at the same. That was under the same umbrella as well. It really was. It was. Even to think of doing something like that, for running that, we had. For the first time, we increased it from 64 to 128, the Las Vegas Open. Then it went up to 192, and we still had people on the waiting list for that. So you think that we got 128 players in the Predator World 10 Ball. We had 64 women in the Women's Alpha Las Vegas Open. And I think there was 222 Carom 3-cushion players plus the 5,000 odd league players.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of pool players.
The logistics of it, Garret, are just mind blowing. And I mentioned I went in there to start. We put the crosses on the floor to where all the tables were going to go.
Yeah.
Then we mark out where all the booths are going to go, and then all the lighting and the rigging and the scoreboards and the stage setup, the stream equipment, the cameras everywhere. I honestly don't know how it happens, and to run as smooth as it did. Yes, we all know about the problems, and I know you want to talk about that as well. And as I said, I'm here to talk about anything you want to talk about.
I think that the logistics of something like that would be incredible. Was there one person that was directly overseeing the whole thing, or did it change from event to event to event?
You mean tournament director or event manager or what?
Event manager, yeah.
Yeah, talk about thrown in the deep end. We actually mentioned Wisconsin a little while ago. There was a girl, Katie Scott.
Yeah.
You know Katie?
Yeah.
So she runs a bar putters in Vegas. She's well known in the pool community. Great at her job. And I'm sure Amy Kane won't mind me saying this. They were looking for an event manager, and one morning, 4 a.m., she woke up and she said, I know just the person. She drove to Putter's Bar. Sorry, I got a little smile on my face there. There's a place near where I live back in England called Potter's Bar. Anyway, so yeah, she went in there and she said, look, what do you think about this? And explained the job to her. And she said, yeah, sounds good. Let's do it. So she said, right, do you want to come to Wisconsin? It's at the weekend. She said, sure. She came there. That was her induction to event managing. Right. And literally for the Vegas event, she just, well, Ozzy said he's never had so much time off in his life because she was just so good at her job. And she really did.
The logistics of something like that, like you're just explaining, I mean, in between the players, because the players are the heart of the industry, right? And then it filters down to the table makers, the manufacturers, and the vendors themselves. But all of this coming together under one roof, one event. Now, the Rio was a huge part of this because they had the venue. There were 3 different rooms. Is that correct?
There were 4, including the Karen room.
4. Yeah. So the sheer logistics of something like that is incredible, going from all of those different events happening at simultaneously, basically, because you said they were overlapping quite a bit, and being able to come through from one to the next is the sheer logistics of that is incredible.
Let's not lose sight of the fact as well that I know you want to talk about the tables. I want to talk about the tables as well. We physically were drawing tables from, think of what era we're doing this in, COVID, right? How difficult is it? How much is fuel now? How hard is it to ship stuff here and there? The shop's running out of stuff, you know. Pool tables, well, they can wait, kind of thing, you know. Well, no, they can't. We need them, and we need them here. You know, we're unloading containers from Spain. We've got trucks arriving from Predator headquarters in Jacksonville. We've got other stuff coming from Holland. We've got stuff coming from all over, you know. We even arrived and we couldn't locate some cables that the Karen tables needed for the heaters. They'd got lost. So, you know, that was a phone call to Korea, to some of the people that were coming from Korea. Can you get us these cables? Yes, okay. So there's stuff from there.
There was 300 tables total?
Sorry?
There was 300 tables total?
There was actually more. There was around about 325. That's if you include the 296, I think it was, bar box. Then you take into consideration our 14. Then you've got all the vendors. You've got about another 8 tables there. You've got the Karen tables, by the way, which were also the showcasing for the Predator 3 cushion table, the first time they've ever been played on, one of the biggest events of the year for the 3 cushion world. That went absolutely brilliantly as well.
You don't see it much from the pool side. So the commentating, unless you were actually sitting down looking for it, you had a hard time finding the coverage of the 3 cushion billiards.
Yeah, that's nothing to do with CSI. It was really an independently run event by I think they're called 560. Have you heard of it? The Korean company?
I have not, but
5 and 6. It's, you know, it's huge in Korea. They've got 2 dedicated 24-hour-a-day Karen channels. So, and wow. They flew all the crew over from Korea. They had their own internet. They had their own everything. Wow. They came with so much stuff, all on an aeroplane as well. Unbelievable.
Wow, yeah. That's incredible. How many Karen tables were there?
There were 8 plus 2 in separate booths.
I was expecting a little bit more than that, but yeah, something like that is incredible. And the logistics of getting that going and having that being an independent event, I think, or should I say, do you think that pool has that capability to eventually be streamed 24/7?
I think it will. I honestly think pool is in the best place it's ever been in. I think there's more potential now, especially with the technological era that we're going through now, you know, with so
Right.
many more people streaming it. It's so much more accessible than it's ever been. Even, you know, everyone goes on, oh, it's not on ESPN anymore, but you can see more pool now than you could ever see before.
Yeah,
Now,
I guess my argument was that when it was on ESPN, and that was a really big highlight for the industry, but you were streaming it to 1 million different people, and you were getting 1 million different views on it at one time, from the match to match to match. Whereas today, you're lucky, and I repeat, lucky to get a couple few thousand at a time, and anything more than that is you're really trying to push yourself to share it on as many different social media networks as you can. And it's not just the coordinators, but it's the fans themselves. So it's the fans wanting to see more of it, so they share it amongst the different groups and the platforms, different stuff that it's on, to see so much of it.
that's an argument and a fair comment, I guess. I don't agree with it totally, because
That's okay. I'm just stating my viewpoint.
yeah, it's good, and viewpoints are great. It helps, you know, different little things that we can pick up from each other and spread around and grow the sport, which is all I'm interested in. As you know, there's no money, very little money in pool, especially the further down the line you get, and commentators are pretty low on the on the scale of payment. But you know, what we're doing, when I say we, I'm talking about CSI, who have been great to me. I think they're an amazing company. They do so much for pool, for leagues all around the world. I think they're fantastic. And since they've joined up with Predator to bring this US Pro Billiard Series to so many people, you know, you can be a little, I'll give you an example. Rich Moon, I think, from Arizona, 4.21 Fargo rating, goes to one of these events in Arizona, went to Wisconsin, then came to Vegas, playing in all these different tournaments. You can end up playing against Fedor Gorst, Tyler Steyer, Sky Woodward, Van Bone. You can play against all these different great pros and mix with them. And that's the genius of this idea, because they're holding, every one of these has a state championships run alongside it. Like in Michigan, Ohio, Puerto Rico is going to be a new one this year. We've already got Arizona, Wisconsin, and Vegas. So that's 6 that we're going to have. There's a new one coming in Canada as well. So that's 7. And what it does is it's bringing the pros in amongst their audience. Get, you know, because pool players aren't known around the world. You could pass 10 world champions in the street and not even recognize one of them, maybe Shane Van Boning. One who probably, and Earl Strickland, maybe, you know, a couple of icons of it who most people know. But to bring, and it's a new format as well, which we're doing now. Here's the clever thing. What we're finding now is, and you talked about viewing figures just now, what we're finding is it's not 2,000 or 3,000, it's 200,000 or 300,000 watching these streams that we're doing. You know, they're on Billiards TV, they're on Facebook, they're on YouTube. Okay, they're not on mainstream TV, but we feel the more chance that you've got somebody just stumbling across a format that they've never seen before and they find exciting, and that's why they're doing the 2 races to 4 with the shootout. We've got statistics. We work a lot with Fargo. They're working on lots and lots of different stats of peak viewing times. You know, how many people watched a shootout, how many people left after that, how many people came back for the next one.
How do you like the
figures,
shootout? That was something new that we hadn't seen before in a while.
I think for the players, it's absolute torture. It's horrid. It shouldn't be allowed, but it's not all about, it can't be all about the players, because you can be the best player in the world. If you've got no one watching you, you've got no sponsorship, you've got no prize money. The shootouts are the real clincher. You know, we've got stories and messages and emails from people saying, oh, we love this format. When my daughter came in and from the garden and she saw it and she said, oh, Daddy, call me next time there's one of these on. They're so exciting, you know. So it's not about keeping the people that have always been interested in pool happy. It's about growing and
Bringing more people in. Yeah, of course.
Viewers. And, you know, because we've got as far as we have with the formats and everything we got until now. So, you know, why not try something new? You've got Matchroom, who are concentrating 100% on 9-ball, right? That's okay. They're great at what they do. They're great promoters. They put on a fantastic show. They're second to none. We're not trying to compete with the likes of Matchroom. And they can't compete with us because they can't get together 6,000 league players from around the world.
It's way different than that. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're not in competition. We mainly do 10-ball. They mainly do 9-ball.
Right.
And I think that's why pool is in such a great position that it's in now, because we've got, you know, CSI are only a small company compared to, say, Matchroom, but they're pretty big in the industry in the States. And I think it's nice to have an American company that are doing a lot. And they, you know, everyone's, oh, we've got no Euro Tour in, you know, we haven't got an equivalent to the Euro Tour in America. Well, hang on, now you're getting your own US Pro Billiards Series with ranking points, with the chance to qualify for the World 10-ball, which then will give you a chance to get into Moscow. So it's all going to be linked, and it's only good for the sport, in my opinion.
Right, of course, of course. Where do you see the sport growing, say, in the next 10 years?
I think we are going to get back on mainstream TV. I'm pretty sure we will. Matchroom are already going in that direction with having it on Sky in England or in Europe.
Yeah.
And you know that there's a channel called Free Sport, and they already show some matches on there. The only way you're going to get back onto mainstream TV is if you get promoters and sponsors from outside the normal, like, you know, Predator, Q-Tech, Kamui. Let's get some other companies from outside the industry, you know, get some car manufacturers in. We've already got a Bitcoin company called Alpha. We've got Rums of Puerto Rico. We've got a beer already, Madea from Puerto Rico, coming into the industry. You know, we've doubled the events last year. The US Pro Billiards Series last year, first prize was 12,000, runner-up 8. This year, it was 25 and 12. So, sorry, 25 and 15. So already in less than a year, in 6 months actually, we've more than doubled the prize money because we're starting to attract new outside industry promoters, sponsors.
That's great.
And that's the only thing that's going to grow the sport, because, you know, they're not going to throw money into something where they're not going to sell their product. Before it was okay, oh, well, you know, we've already got our audience, Predator and Q-Tech and people like that, Mucci. We've already got our customers from watching it. That's what they're interested in. But we want people that drink beer, that want to, you know, that want to buy a car, that want to go on holidays somewhere, buy some Bitcoin, do some investing, you know. So I think it's going in a really, really great direction. And do you know what? I couldn't have been luckier to be involved in this.
At the time you were, yeah.
At the time I was. I just think it was like a perfect storm. Everything happening, even COVID, in a way, done a lot for Paul, because, you know, the Paul,
like like a slingshot almost, I think.
Yeah.
Because we were doing pretty good on an increase before COVID, and then once it shut down, because it just didn't shut down pool, but everything associated with it. So for the league players, it was the leagues that they couldn't go to the bars. It was the bar owner, it was the alcohol suppliers, it was the truckers, it was the vendors. It was a whole chain from one stage going down to the next, to the next, to the next, that shut down our entire country and the entire world. But it seems like after that, since then, everybody is coming out and going, okay, let's get this going, because we've been deprived and so hungry for so long, and our sport is filled with incredibly dedicated people. So they love pool, and they love getting out there and playing and showing off what they have, and what they play with and all this type of stuff. So I feel that it definitely slingshotted the industry as a whole, because it's definitely on a rebound now, more so than it has been in a long time.
I mean, that statement that you just made shows the depth of the sport, from the league player through the truck drivers, the bar owners. It affects so deep. And that just shows you how many people. I mean, if Karim from Predator were here now, he'd be able to roll the figures off the top of his head about how many people play pool as opposed to how many people play soccer or basketball.
Yeah.
It's massive. It really is a huge industry that is only going to get bigger.
Speaking of sponsors, let's take a break for Fort Worth Billiards, and a special shout out to Alberto Trujillo. And when we get back, we will pick up with the table situation at the Vegas event. Heard from Mark White. And that was Fort Worth Billiards, and we're back.
So yeah, I think that the more people know about the industry and about the inner workings of it, that the more that it's going to grow as well. Because when people go to these events, that they really need to spend some time and going to the vendors and going and supporting the people that support the industry. Because I mean, without cue makers, there wouldn't be an industry. Without table makers, there wouldn't be an industry. Without cue tip makers, there wouldn't be an industry. And subsequently, past that down, there's a whole bunch of companies that are provided to them, like, so people that make and sell trees. I mean, not make trees, but grow them, and the foresters and the whole aspects of the entire industry have evolved to the point to where it is so massive that it affects so many different people and so many different industries when one portion of it gets shut down.
100%.
Kind of like a snowball effect.
It really is. It really is. And when COVID hit, say that again.
Snowball effect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It is. And the thing about it is that a lot of people don't see that. The only thing that they see, because they're narrow-minded, their window of vision is not as broad as it should be in the industry. So when people go to play, they're more worried about spending enough quarters and spending enough time and bringing in outside food for that, so that they don't have to pay the extra $2 or $3 because food's always high at these events. But they don't think how it cascades down to the inner industry and how far it goes. So I would definitely say get out there and spend some money, because that's what keeps it going.
That's another good point about why we need other people who aren't necessarily pool players, pool fans. We want to get them, because they're the ones that are going to spend the money as well. Look, I don't mean this nastily. I have to bump into pool players all the time, but pool players don't spend a lot of money.
No, they don't.
The ones that they'll spend as little as they can, and and that could have something to do with the fact that there's not a lot of money in pool, and it can be, I wouldn't say it's an expensive sport. It's not like golf or tennis or stuff where you've got to buy a lot of equipment. Basically, when you've bought a couple of cues, you've got everything you need. So we need those people that aren't necessarily fans now to come in. And, we see it all the time. We don't charge for anything at the big expos and the US Pro Billiard Series. I'm not trying to make this out to be an advert, for it. This is just the fact that what they're doing is the genius part, bringing all the league players in with the pros, which then in turn gets people to come and sit in the arena or just around the other outside tables and witness up close and personal these fantastic players. You know, I'm talking the top players in the world. You're rubbing shoulders with them. You can have the ball signed with them. They have your picture with them. And that's what we're trying to do. And this is all good for the sport because it's getting the players more known. We want to, what I try and do is I want to get inside the pool player. I want to know the person behind the cue rather than just the person standing behind the cue. I want to get to know them.
Right.
And what makes them tick? What excites them? What do they like eating? What movies do they like? Fedder, how's it going with Christina and Tyler? How's Margaret? Stuff like that. And it's about personalizing it and getting people
personalizing the relationships that you have within the industry. So yeah, that's definitely huge in any part of it. If you see Kareem, tell him that I've been trying to get a hold of him for a hot minute.
Will do. I've got him on speed dial now. I know he's got me.
There you go. There you go. He's a hard man to track down, I tell you that. Yeah. So why don't you tell me a little bit about Predator and about the problems that they had with the tables and how they chose to deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone the world over has seen the videos going around Facebook. We've seen Jason Shaw's interview where he absolutely said they were the biggest piece of shit he'd ever seen. And, that was a little bit reactionary after he had maybe a bad roll. And we saw there were some really bad rolls. I'm not going to try and cover it up because I'm an honest guy. Yes, there were problems. Look, when Diamond started, they came out with a table called the Red Label, and it was shocking. Balls jumping off the rails. They had no end of problems. No matter what product you look at throughout history, there's always been teething problems with it. Whether it's actually been the equipment, whether it's been the people installing it, maybe it's, there's been talk about maybe the cloth was to blame slightly as well because the weave was a little bit bigger than it should have been. But it's the third one that they've brought out. They've got a new one coming out for the Austria Open very soon for the big tournament in Europe. So
how do you feel that the cloth plays differently than Simonis, which is the world leader right now?
Honestly, I think it's great. I've never been able to draw a ball back like I can.
Wow.
Or spin a ball like I can on a Predator on the Arcadia cloth. Maybe I could do it on a Simonis as well. I don't know. I haven't had the chance to play on many Simonis. Actually, I'm going to play on one tonight, actually, in a tournament here in Bangkok. So maybe I can send you a message and let you know how that goes.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But listen, look, all jokes aside, yes, there were problems, but I'll tell you one thing. You mentioned Kareem. He was the first man under the table on his hands and knees, getting the problem sorted. Right, so he even had every table stripped, reclothed, redone in a basically on the day off. We had a day off.
Oh yeah. They did all that in 24 hours where they refelted them and leveled them at the same time. Yeah.
14, I'm talking here. 14 tables, a group of 5 guys, I think it was, and don't forget, we're working on new equipment here, new leveling systems, things that have never been tried before. Should you wait until you've perfected it? No, I don't think you should. I think you should go, right, here it is. Tell us what you think. How can we improve it? And we'll improve it.
Yeah, and that's good to hear that he's one of the first ones down on his hands and knees, because it shows his in-depth how do I say, pursue of dedication to what he's got going on. There's a lot of, it seems like you're on one side or the other with Predator. Either you love him or you hate him. But to honestly see that he is right there in the thick of it with getting down there and getting in the mud and the blood, so to speak. But to work on his own tables is something that's unprecedented, especially because he's not a table mechanic at all. But to have him down there, you know what I mean, trying to do it is impressive.
You know, he's been over to Spain. He's been over to the factory where they've made, been involved in the design, been involved in the mechanics of the shipping of them. You know, let's not forget this either, that these are tables that there's only maybe 20 in the country, right?
Yeah.
And they're not based here in the US. They're based in Europe, but I'm sure in the future they will build them here. It's very, very early stages, and it's so easy to knock a company, especially a company like Predator, who are, you know, Predator are well known for quality products, right? Their cues are fantastic. The new jump cue is fun. I'm not going to turn it into an advertisement for Predator, but what I'm saying is that
no, they've got their hands in everything, in every aspect of the sport, from the lighting to the balls to the tables to the cues to the shafts to the gloves. I mean, the new racks, everything that's involved in the industry all as a whole, they've got it down to a specific science on how to get it and how to get it into people's hands, so that they can see it. And they only sponsor a handful of the world's top players all around that are chosen experts in their field to have them represent the industry because of their playing style, but their also personality and how they interact with the public, and how dedicated they are to excellence.
Yeah, well said. You know, that they are one of the leaders if not the leader in the world, and maybe not at tables yet, but I know they will be. Talking about the tables, I want to go back to the Carom tables. They had the very, very best, the cream of the crop, 3 cushion players at that event, over 220 of them. And there wasn't one complaint about the tables.
That's
Not
good.
one.
That's
Not
good.
one.
That's good. That's good. Okay.
So there's lots, you know, that they're chucking money. They are throwing money at everything, more than a lot of companies are doing at the moment, right?
Right. Now, what would you have to say about people that give the remark to Predator that they're not giving back to the industry, that they're not supporting the players that they sponsor and stuff like that? Because that's a big thing that's going around, that I'm trying to address on a personal level and on a professional level, because I've heard a lot of people say that.
Say what?
That they don't support their players as much as that they should.
What should they? How should they support their players? I'll tell you what. Name me some Q-Tech players that get everything from their sponsor. I can name maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, 1 or 2, for sure.
So, and you know, I'm sure that people like Albin Ocean, Jasmine Ocean, Tyler Steyer, players like that are well supported by Predator. I know Kelly Fisher is. I know lots of players that are very well looked after by Predator. Great. And I can also tell you from my time in Arizona this year, there were many times when I overheard conversation of players wanting to join Predator, and you know, sitting down with Angela Gallane, going through the contracts and sorting them out.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, they're very happy to be a part of Predator because they want to play with the best equipment.
Yeah, and that's a huge aspect of
the best equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you play? Yeah. What do you play with? I don't even know.
I play with a Jacoby, and I'm very proud of that. Okay. I think that they're one of the best companies in the world as well. And as a matter of fact, they make a lot of the Predator cues, a lot of the custom ones, limited edition ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm local to Wisconsin too, so that puts me in kind of a biased area. They're very big here.
I want to point out quickly, Gareth and Catherine, I'm no way am I very highly knowledgeable on the inside workings of anything in the pool industry. I'm a person that will go in and help at the beginning, and then I'll be the voice of the commentary, and then I'll go away and do my thing. That's as far as my input goes, you know, as far as my knowledge goes. If you've heard my commentary, I'm not the most knowledgeable person. You know, Jeremy Jones is the knowledgeable man. Tony Robles is knowledgeable. I'm just the guy that sits there and asks the right questions at the right time and says the stupid things at the right time, so that they can
right. It's funny that you bring up Tony Robles. He's going on the cover of this magazine, the issue that we're publishing. He's a great guy, a really good ambassador for the sport, I believe.
Absolutely. I hope to be on it myself one day.
Hey, there you go. All right. Well, on that note, I think what we're going to do is we're going to draw this interview to a close. Thank you so much for being a part of it and sharing your knowledge and expertise. And we look forward to having you again. Hey, there you go. Outsville, Chris Renfro. He's great.
Two-piece queue.
Hey, Mark, where do you go after Taiwan?
I think I'm going to Red Deer near Calgary for a big new Predator event. Then I'll be heading to Michigan, to Battle Creek, then Ohio, and then obviously to Puerto Rico for the remaining 3 events in this year's Predator US Pro Billiard Series. CSI.
That's incredible. Series. That's a lot of travel. And one
other thing I want to mention quickly before I go is, you talked about Predator and how much they're putting back into the industry. They've just given the women another 4. They've given 6 to anyone anyway in a year. They've now added another 4 events solely for the women to compete in as well. And Jerry Snooker was at the last
that's
one.
Wonderful, because the women, honestly, in our industry, they compete just as hard as the men do, but their audience is, in my opinion, has a lot less views on it, and they're out there and they're charging just as hard as anybody else, for sure.
But it's growing, and they need more competition against the men. They're allowed to go. You know, you won't mind me saying that as a woman, Catherine. You know, they need to play higher level players. Otherwise, it's like the flea that never jumps out of a jar with a lid on it. If you keep the cap on it, it's never going to jump. Take the lid off, let everyone play, and then you're going to see the level grow and grow and grow. And that's exactly the direction that Paul is going in. And I love it when the women are around. Kelly Fisher picked up a check for $15,000 for winning that. That's more than the men earned 6 months previous in that same competition.
That's incredible.
That's incredible. Put that out there as well, you know. So Predator are putting loads of money in. CSI are putting untold amount of money in, and, you know, doing so much for all the leagues. And I just love it. And I'm so happy and so lucky, privileged to be a part of now what is going to be a huge sport in the world, and I cannot wait. And if I can be a part of it in some little way, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for being a part of the show, and we will talk to you soon. Okay.
Thank you so much. Sawadee Cup.
Yeah. Have a good one.